Hey guys, I have a bit of an interesting video. This is a comparison video between my Asus RoG Strix GL502VT equipped with an Intel Core i7 6700HQ, quad-core 8 threads with a GTX 970M. It's a 3GB version, versus my Alienware 15R3 Alienware 15R3 with the i5 6300HQ. Now that's just quad cores with no threads, and it's got the GTX 1060 6GB, and both rocking 16 gigs of RAM and all that good stuff. So now I see this is pretty interesting because this computer right here, it's rocking a much more powerful CPU, but with graphics not as powerful as this one, which is rocking a 1060. Now I have both benchmarks up and running, so we'll kind of compare and see what frame rates we get. But right off the bat, it's pretty obvious that that this one is running much smoother than the one I have here. In case anyone's wondering, this has a 1080p TN panel, while this one's got a 1080p IPS panel. And the difference between them is quite considerable, if I do say so myself. But I'm going to run these benchmarks and see what we get as a final score. But it is running very smooth on this one, but not as smooth as on this one. It's pretty visible. But I'll get back to you guys when this is all finished up here and see what final scores that we get. And actually, no, I'll post some FPSs as well, but I guess you could see that on the final score. Alright, so we're coming upon the graphics test here, and I just want to point out the FPS differences. See, this is pulling 40 FPS, and this is pulling around, barely doing mid-20s here, maybe 30. Well, in any case, it's below 30 FPS for both these laptops. And then we got the second test going. Now this is a CPU test. This is doing 30 FPS, and this is doing around 15 FPS, around maybe 16, 17 FPS. This one's got the i5, and this one's got the i7. I would expect this one to be better in that CPU score, but I'm not sure if that'll make a big of a difference in the final score, due to the fact that this thing's got around 30 to 40% better graphics power than this one right here. And we have come up upon the combined test here. It's kind of hard to see the Asus RoG screen since it's a TN panel with pretty poor color there. Well, it's very washed out in my opinion, but pretty clear that the Alienware performed much smoother. But here are the scores. We got around 8,716. Now I think the i7 model of this Alienware laptop gets anywhere between 9K to 10K, so the physics score is a real big difference. So like the CPU score versus the Asus RoG CPU score, it's nearly twice as much as my Alienware, which showed in the FPS, because it was pulling well within 30 FPS, while my i5 here was barely doing half that. But let's see, the graphics score is 7,017. Now this graphics score is 11,955. That is almost a 50% improvement over my Asus RoG Strix. Hence probably why it's got a higher graphics score of around 2K. So if this had the i7, it would probably be around 50% more powerful than my Asus RoG Strix here. But unfortunately, the i7 model of this laptop is around $300 more than the i7 model of this RoG Strix. But alright, so this notebook, or I should say a laptop, because this is too big to be a notebook really, is built like a tank, an absolute tank. It weighs just shy of 8 pounds, and that's all from build quality. Now, I took this apart to try and access the RAM modules and the cooler, and this thing had like a metal plate in there that separated the stuff that you could get to, such as the RAM modules, the hard drive, the M.2 slots, and the motherboard itself. And that probably added more to the weight and rigidity of the thing, but I like that. That's good stuff. Now, the material that they used for this cover plate here, I'm not really sure what type of metal it is. I'm not even sure if it's aluminum or magnesium. I think it might be magnesium, but it's pretty good good choice here, because a lot of like the brushed aluminum covers would attract a ton of fingerprints here, but yeah, doesn't really attract too many fingerprints. Alright guys, so we're back in my room here, and we're doing a stress test on my computer here using Ada64 with stressing the CPU, FPU, the cache, system memory, and the GPU as well. And now, I've seen a lot of reviews of this computer having very bad thermals, but as we can see, I've been running this benchmark for around, or no, not really a benchmark, this is a stress test, for around 20 minutes now, and it has not gone past 65 degrees Celsius with no thermal throttling at all, which is quite impressive. Now I'll take this time to kind of go over a little bit more of the build quality here. This keyboard has got kind of like a matte plasticky finish, while the palm rest here is like that matte rubberized coating, which I'm not really a fan of because those things are extremely hard to clean. It's got, I believe that these are 2 speakers, or no, not really speakers, microphones, and they're noise canceling, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like one's a main and one's a noise canceling. And then we've got 2 webcams here. One's an infrared with, I think, Tb eye tracking, and the other one's a standard 720p webcam up here. These 2. Terrible with my camera work right now. I'm not really looking at the camera, but again, just to point out these features: 2 microphones, might be noise cancelling, I'm not entirely sure. 720p. I think this is the infrared, and this LED right here is to detect if your face is within the camera, so it knows when to shut off and all that cool stuff. Now, moving on to the display, it's got a 1080p, 15.6 inch display. 1080p, it's kind of like a glossy IPS panel here. 60 hertz. I didn't get the fancy 120 hertz G-Sync panel because that eats up a ton of battery. The trackpad, 2 buttons. You can't really click on the trackpad, which is nice. 2 dedicated buttons for that. And you got front-mounted speakers over here. You can kind of see it, not really sure if you can, but front-mounted speakers. Big cooling vents, which are hard at work right now, trying to cool this behemoth. But I'm gonna stop this test because I think we can clearly see that it is doing fairly great. And the fans are relatively quiet, but let's see how fast it cools down. Look at how CPU usage is going down. And there we go, the thermals are starting to go back down. But the unit that I got doesn't seem to have any thermal issues whatsoever, because I've seen reviews where this thing would be on 8-64 and it'll be hitting 90s and it'll thermal throttle like a bastard, but mine hasn't done that, so which is very nice. Quite surprised. I was a little worried, but I mean, this thing, I've upgraded the RAM to 20 gigabytes, 20 gigs of RAM, DDR4, because I thought 20 is an alien number. So, yep. Let me just close this back up. It's a very sleek, minimalistic looking laptop too. None of the over-the-top gaming-esque stuff. Let me just show you guys what the AlienFX software looks like. Let's see if it'll work this time. I didn't get too it's not really working. But yeah, I mean, it is a nice feature once it's working and all that good stuff, but yeah. Overall, the performance on this particular monitor, I had kind of wished that I had gotten the i7 model, but i5 is good enough for what it is. But the important part, it's got a full-size desktop 1060 in it, 6 gigabytes of VRAM, and that is huge for a laptop like this. Desktop grade, and I think, judging from that Firestrike score, that's a relatively good score for a 1060, the graphics score at least. But yeah, all in all, it's a pretty solidly built laptop, and it'll accomplish whatever I want to do, and that's all that matters, I guess. But that's it for today. I'll see you guys later.